Happy New Year! In this week's episode we are going to be doing a boat tour of Ocean Melody, the boat that we live aboard, me, my husband and our two children. Lots of you obviously know the inside of our boat. However, loads of people have asked what the exact layout is because they can't quite piece it together, because one day we're working here, the next day we're working there, and they can't quite work out the layout. So with that being said, we're going to show you the layout of our boat that we live on aboard in the UK this winter. Hopefully next winter we'll be somewhere warm, but here she is.
We are a family of four living aboard our 50-year-old 46-foot classic Bowman sailing yacht, which we bought cheap and have spent the last few years doing up. So far we've sailed her over 1,000 miles and made loads of changes and upgrades. Here's the interior tour so you can see what it's really like to live aboard our tiny home.
So I thought the logical place to start would be in the Forepeak, which is in the bow of the boat. Now this room you could have as two singles. We've got an infill in the middle and we have just got one solid foam mattress, but there's a piece of wood under the bed that slots in to make it into a large double. Underneath there's an area where we have laundry baskets and we keep our laundry there ready for washing. The bed in the Forepeak is a king size at the head end, maybe even a super king at the head end, because you can actually lay across it at the very sort of end of it. And at the other end, it goes into a point, into a triangle, to make the smallest single at the other end. So you're always fighting for foot space in a triangle Forepeak bed. But it's very cosy. We don't sleep with our heads down there. Just when I make the bed in the morning, I tend to put the cushions there because it just looks nicer. But there's not enough length for us, because of the cupboard at the end, to sleep that way. But sometimes we sleep across. Now, right at the bow behind these pillows, you do have a door which gives you access to the anchor chain locker. Then we have two large cupboards here, which I'm not utilising very well. They currently have vacuum packed and bags full of summer clothes. We're looking forward to unpacking them and narrowing down our winter clothes. Now on the starboard side are Andy's clothes, and I fold them all up into little parcels and he unfolds them and makes them a mess. So it's not the neatest of places. And on my side, and I need to get some more of these, I put all my clothes in little bags, which helps keep them neat and tidy, but they just unzip. And this one is t-shirts, and obviously there's trousers and all other manner of clothes in there. But that's all my clothes plus a vacuum packed bag of summer clothes in here. Then above us we have a huge opening skylight, which I love. I absolutely love laying in bed and looking at the stars. In the winter it gets quite damp with condensation, so I do need to make some covers for it. However, I want to try and make a cover with a clear pocket in it so you can still see out. What else is in here? It's a very small room, so there's not a lot to show. We have a mishmash of lighting. Currently we've got a gooseneck light over there, a reading light with a USB in it. And then on this side we have one of the original lights. We also, these are my wedding flowers, and Ollie's dinosaur. But here there's this random, very random door. I can't open it because the mattress is in the way, but behind here is nothing. It goes to the back wall of the bathroom. And there's nothing to access at all. I really don't know the purpose of it. I'm not sure. If anyone knows what this door could possibly be for, do let me know. The plus side is we have a spare door. If we ever need a door, we could put just a panel of wood there and have a spare door. We also have on either side 240 volt sockets. One side has got USBs and two plugs. They're handy if we're plugged into shore power, but we can also use them on the inverter as well. And then I think, I've made the bed a mess. That's pretty much it for the Forepeak. Things that I'd like to do in here. Obviously this woodwork needs sanding and varnishing. I want to make a hatch cover. I'd like to take all the slats down and insulate behind them and repaint all of this. At the head end of the bed going into the saloon, you have some standing space to get changed. There's a little seat here, which we've currently got this dehumidifier on, which one of our lovely followers, I'll put your name on the screen, sent us, which was incredibly kind. But it's made such a huge... Ooh. I accidentally turned it on. Jack has also got one in his aft cabin, an older one that we already had, but definitely recommend for winter in the UK. Then in here, so you've got the bed, and you come into this area, you've got a cupboard here, which has all of Ollie's clothes in, which are also in little bags. And then when we don't have the dehumidifier here, I don't know if you can see because it's quite a small space, you have an area where you can sit down here. Now, the original door was removed when we bought the boat, so I've just put up a curtain just to give some privacy. When Ollie's asleep in the evening, it means the lights in the saloon don't wake him up. So then as you moved aft through the corridor into the main saloon of the boat, you have here a really large hanging locker. Well, it was a hanging locker, but it's so deep and it was just such a waste of space. We have, it's quite dark, but we have, Andy put some shelves in here. So we've got buoyancy aids on the top shelf, life jackets on the second shelf, along with some towels and some bedding. And then foul weather gear on the next shelf, shoes underneath, and then all our coats that we use regularly are hung up in here. And then on the opposite side, you've got the heads door. This leads into the heads in here. Those of you that watch our episodes regularly will probably be quite familiar with this room because we've spent far too much time fixing the toilet in here. All I wanted for Christmas from Santa was an electric, or even just a new toilet, but sadly Santa didn't deliver. But I have had to set this camera on hyperview because it's a small room, so there'll be some crazy fisheye. I'll probably look all distorted, but it means that you can see the whole room. So this is the heads. It's a wet heads, so you can shower in here. So it means that down here where I'm standing, there's grates that go into the bilge, and then there's a little pump switch here, which pumps the water out. Currently the water just goes out of this tube into the sink. We don't use the shower at the minute. One, because we need a new tap because it doesn't work very well. And two, because the showers here at Portland are amazing and they've got heated floors, and it causes, obviously in the winter, a lot of condensation in here. And once we're in warmer climates, we're hoping to do a lot of showering outside. But yeah, you've got a mirror, you've got a, using a flip, what do you call it, a shaver socket for Andy's shaver, my toothbrush. Not the tidiest of cupboards, but everything's in here, toothbrushing, washing stuff. And then in here we've got some of our medication, general tablets, bottles and potions, my makeup and hair stuff in there. And then the sink has got hot and cold water. I'm not going to turn it on because we've got an issue with it and we need to get a new pipe because this pipe has split. But you can stop it and you can make it go psh, or you can have a normal stream, if that makes sense. And then here is the manual flushing toilet that is the bane of my life. Andy spent lots of time fixing it. I've spent lots of time fixing it and it just breaks all the time. So we really need a new one. But it works for now. And then we've got a couple of hanging thingies that came with the boat. In here, under here, you have the sea cocks, so we can turn off The seacock's under there. And then here, when you're using it as a shower, you can keep your toilet roll. And then behind here, this is where I keep all our cleaning stuff. One of the great things about this heads and about the layout is that you can use the loo on any angle of heel. So a lot of heads on a boat, the toilet faces the door, which is really bad because if you tack or you're on an angle where you're leaning against the door, if the lock broke, you would fall out the door. I know lots of people have told lots of stories about people crashing out of the door. So on this one, if you're heeling this way, then you can lean against this wall. And if you're heeling this way, you can lean against this wall. And it's actually a really comfortable place to be when you're underway. Sometimes I just come and sit here for a bit of peace and quiet. It's great. Things that we need to do in here. I have given the ceiling a lick of paint, but once again we'd like to take all the slats down eventually and insulate behind it. All the woodwork needs treating, but apart from a new loo and new mix taps, it's an okay space. So that is the heads. Smallest room on the boat. Now we carry on aft into the saloon. So coming out of the heads, you come into the main saloon. So you're going aft, so the Forepeak's that way, and then you're going aft to the back of the boat, coming into here. We love this place. We spend a lot of time here, especially in the winter in the UK. Lots of cosy evenings in here, watching films. The main thing that you'll notice is the mast. We're a kill step mast, so it means that the mast comes through the deck into some blocks on top of the kill here. So it's the heart of the boat. It's an aluminium mast which I have wrapped with vinyl. It's Velcro, so you can remove it, but it just helps insulate it and keeps the noise down from any halyards clanking it against the mast. And then either side of the boat you have two single bunks, and they're very comfy. You've got one on the port side and one on the starboard side. When we bought the boat, those of you who have watched before would know that she came with no upholstery, so I've made all this upholstery. I need to redo the buttons because I bought some rubbish buttons basically, that the tops have popped off, so I need to do those again. Over here on the starboard side, it's what we call the music corner. We've got Ollie's keyboard, one of Andy's guitars, and Ollie's ukulele here. Jack has also got a guitar in his aft cabin. Under there, in the lift-up locker, there are two more guitars and a full-size electric keyboard, of course. So lots of music can be made on here with what we've got. Andy had to give a few guitars to his children to look after, which broke his heart, but we can't bring everything. In here, there's some tools. They're a bit messy. Some tools and some paperwork. I'm not going to show you in there because our cupboards aren't very tidy. But there's lots of things that we still need to fit to the boat, which are stored in our cupboards. So once they've been fitted, we'll have a lot more storage space. And then on this side, we've got a bookshelf with some drawers underneath. This drawer has just got paperwork. Most of these are school books or educational books, dictionary, knot tying, encyclopedia, some of Andy's Darren Brown books, Hungry Caterpillar, of course. Below the bookshelf we have our Bluetti freezer, which is amazing, so it means that I can do bigger shops and put stuff in the freezer. We have an ice maker here, which is a bit tricky to access because of the telly. Now I think we should have a smaller telly. Andy doesn't agree, Jack doesn't agree, but I definitely think the next size down will be better. Let me know in the comments and see if I can win this battle. But this is our telly here. We've tried all different places to put it. This seems to be where it works the best. Although obviously you have to move it. It's on a bracket, so you have to move it to get into that drawer and access the corner of the bookshelf. That's not too much of a pain. Then over here we have our working progress table, We like to keep the table up to give Ollie as much floor space as possible to play around with his toys. So I'll just show you how that works. So currently, I'd say it's still work in progress, but you have this position. So sometimes when we're editing, we sit here, but you can move it out into this position and you put your pin in, and then Ollie sits in his little throne just here and he can have food, and then we can open it up as well. The leg goes around here. It's easier to do when you're standing, but basically that goes there. I haven't put it out completely. There's another leg that goes out there and everything like that. But yes, nice table that you can seat four and an Ollie round. But it is work in progress using the old table that we had. And then for now, it's just secured with a bungee and a couple of pins. But it will definitely look more sleek and like it's meant to be in the future. But once it's up, it means that we have all this floor space, which just makes the boat feel bigger. And as I say, Ollie can play with his toys. He loves sitting on the floor and getting all his blocks out and stuff. On the subject of toys, where do they all get stored? Current storage solution. So we have boxes up here. Some of them are camera equipment. Some of them, these ones have got nappies in. And then we've got 3 here with Ollie's toys, which we can just slide out like so. Oh, he has a box of toys. And that goes back in there. I want to make some lee cloths for here as well, so when we're underway we can secure everything in place that's on these shelves. Behind here, and there's storage under there which has got some tools in. Under this one is my sewing machine. In here we've got media equipment. All our sailing related books and notebooks are all up here. Under the seat we have some lift up lids, but that's where our water tanks are, so there's no storage under there as such. Some of these cushions are just cushions, but some of them are full of other things. So in this cushion, for example, is full of all our hats and gloves. And then there's some towels and some bedding in another one. And then all the ones with sea creatures on are just normal cushions. On the saloon floor, I have put a carpet down and I have started binding the edge. I'm yet to finish that. It's a bit of a long working progress project that I sit down and do in the evenings when I remember it. But all the floors lift up. We've got the bilges and more storage under the floors. The other thing we have in the saloon is a stairgate. Continuing aft, we move into the galley. I spend a lot of time in here. So this is the galley. This is where all the cooking happens. You may notice it looks a bit different to usual. Last time I was away, Andy was quite ill and he didn't film, but he has put a new white wall up because all the old veneer was coming off, and he's put in an opening window for me, which is amazing. So when I'm cooking, I can let all the steam out, which is so much better in winter. It's just nice to be able to have an opening window without having to take the washboards and the hatch out. Anyway, in the galley we have worktop, sink, hot and cold running water. So in a previous episode, if you want to go back, we installed the Kill-cooled fridge from Penguin Refrigeration, and the compressor unit is under the sink here. We have a drawer here which has all our cutlery in. I'm not going to take the top off the sink because there is washing up hidden underneath there. But you've got a chopping board here which you lift up, and then you have the sink under there. Then at the back here we store our plates and cups and glasses, although we tend to use stainless steel glasses. We have proper mugs though, apart from when we're on passage where we use these when we're on passage, but we like to drink our tea out of a proper mug. And then one of my favourite parts of the galley is my spice rack. It was over on the other side, but we've moved it obviously for the window. So I've got most of my spices here. And then behind the cooker, there's food storage. We keep tea and coffee and spreads and stuff like that in there, and more spices up the top. Behind me there's a bit of an interesting setup here. We still need to build this unit in and gimbal it. Currently, because we're on shore power, I'm using a Vango electric 2-hob burner, but mostly when we're underway I use a 2-hob gas stove, unless we've got an abundance of power, and then I'll use the electric. And then I've got an air fryer that is basically like a fast oven. You can air fry, you can roast, you can grill, you can bake and do toast and dehydrate, which I've never done yet. But it makes good toast and it cooks our food, and we've just found that it's more efficient than the marine gas oven that we had before. Normally I have a whistling kettle, but once again, because we're on shore power, we've got just a normal kettle, but we pack that away. And then I've also got a instant pot, which is like an electric pressure cooker, to make things like soups and stews and stuff like that. Once again, if we're running low on power, then that gets packed away and we don't use it, but over winter it's really handy, and especially when we're in warmer countries, you can cook things really quick without dispelling too much heat in the boat. Then down here there's some really deep cupboards, which has more food stuff in there, bowls and stuff for baking, but mostly just food. It's not very well stocked at the moment, but this goes back really far, so you can fit quite a lot in there. Over here I've got my 2 tubs of flour because I'm trying to get better at baking bread. Back over this side, more food storage, and I've got things in containers like porridge, popcorn obviously, and we don't need to get it all out, but chickpeas and lentils and some squash and things in there. So there's quite a lot of storage space for food in the galley, which has a few cleaning bits, some kitchen roll, and the fridge compressor lives under here, and the seacock. Currently the fire extinguisher is under here because it hasn't gone back on the wall, but we've also got a fire blanket. Things that I would change about the galley. Obviously Andy's going to gimbal the stove for me, which is essential. We need to put a safety bar across here, so when we're underway you can't accidentally fall into the cooker. So we'll have a stainless steel bar across here, and maybe one day we'll make the worktops higher because it's ridiculously low. It's made for somebody quite short. Ollie will be alright in a few years. He'll have to be on washing up duty, but by the time you're in the sink washing up, you're sort of like this. So the worktop should be about this height. But apart from that, this is the galley, and I really like it. It feels safe and secure. When you're underway, you can wedge yourself in. And then right down here in the galley, we've got our diesel heater outlet. It's a planar auto term heater, and it's been an absolute game changer. When we sailed this boat back up from Dartmouth, we didn't have heating on board and it was so cold. But now we're managing to live aboard in the winter, and currently I think today it's about 2 degrees outside, and this just kicks in when the temperature drops below what we've set it at, and it's just amazing. We couldn't live on the boat without it, to be honest. I do need to sort out some place to store my vegetables and stuff. Currently, because it's so cold here, they're just in a basket outside. I've got like potatoes and carrots and parsnips and things in a basket up in the cockpit under the enclosure. But we will need to get some netting and things down here for fruit and veg eventually. Now I'll pass you over to Andy for the next bit of the tour.
Like everywhere else on Ocean Melody, the chart table area is a project. It's a work in progress. But I've been messing around with this for a little while. It used to face that direction, but quite recently I re-engineered the whole thing to turn it round. So we've now got a forward-facing nav station. What do we use for nav? Well, I use paper charts. And if you look, that will give you a clue as to our plans coming up. So we use paper charts, and I'm also in the process of learning to use one of the several sextants that we've got. We also primarily are using the Orca system next season. I'll tell you more about that in the coming weeks, but if you look back at the video from a couple of weeks ago, I'm in the process of installing Orca, which I run on their Orca tablet. And other people have asked about the Doogie R20 rugged tablet. Well, we still use that, and you can run Orca on that or Navionics. Now, aside from the tablet-based navigation systems and our paper charts, which, as I say, are running Orca, which sort of monitors the whole boat, really, and we also run Navionics, the Garmin app. We also have a standard Raymarine Axiom 7 chart plotter built into the console here, and that runs the Lighthouse, the Raymarine Lighthouse system, and also runs Navionics as well. Let's just have a look at what we've actually got at the console here. Up at the top here, I've got the engine control panel for our Yanmar. So we've got the engine oil pressure, the water temperature, the engine RPM and hours, all of our warning lights, and the engine start system. On the shelf here, I've got a handheld that sits in a holster, and that's the ICOM handheld that's got AIS and a chart plotter and GPS on it as well. So if everything else failed, we've also got a chart plotter on a very basic one on the handheld. So obviously we've got torches and knives and things like that, which are all secured when we're on passage or underway. On the front of the console here, we've got our ICOM IC M802 SSB, which is a single sideband radio allowing for long communications. We're not licensed to use that at the moment, so it's not in operation, but I'm in the process of doing the courses to get licensing for that. We've also got a standard IC M505, which is the ship-to-shore VHF. And we run that through a splitter, so we've got AIS, which I'll show you in a moment. Then we've got a chart plotter, and then we've got a Tridata here, an ST60 Plus Tridata, which displays, it's just an MFD, a multifunction display, so that can show us our depth and water temperature and speed through the water and whatever we need to see, although it's on an NMEE network, so all that information also appears on the Axiom and on the tablets in Orca, and indeed on your phone if you want it to. Next to that, I've also got an autopilot control unit. We've got 3 of them going on the boat, so we can control the autopilot from here at the nav station, or from the helm, or from sitting under the cockpit canopy, sitting forward of the wheel, so that in whatever position you're in, you can override the previous commands put in by any other autopilot head unit, and you can effectively change the course of the boat or do something, or put the take the autopilot off, put it on standby in the event of an emergency. So no matter where you are, really, you've got control over those things. Here we've got an engine temperature an engine exhaust temperature alarm. So that has got a band with the thermostat on the engine exhaust, and that will tell us if the exhaust's overheating, because if you get something stuck in your water impeller intake, or if the impeller blades fail and you lose cooling water around your engine, the first thing to heat up is the exhaust, and it heats up before the engine block. So that's an early warning that we've lost coolant water around our engine. Next to here, you'll notice we've got two fuel gauges, and that's because there are 2 fuel tanks on Ocean Melody. We've got one in the deep keel, which was built by a friend of ours. It's a custom made stainless steel large capacity tank, and that is basically our reservoir of diesel. And then in between the two gauges there's a push button, and that will pump fuel from the tank in the keel to the running tank, which the engine runs off on a day-to-day basis. So you can very easily monitor how much fuel have we got. So our capacity, our mileage capacity is about 300 miles on the running tank and about 800 miles on the tank in the keel. So all in all, we've got over 1,000 miles of range from the two tanks. But it just means that as we're pumping fuel from the tank in the keel to the day running tank, we can pump it through extra filters just to get out any nasties and make sure that we haven't got any diesel bug and what have you. Right, what else have we got at the chart table? You'll notice I've got a laptop. Well, we're YouTubers, so we spend a lot of time here at the chart table editing and all that kind of stuff. I'm in the process of writing a talk that we're doing at the moment for a sailing club, and we're doing a 90-minute presentation with an interval in the middle in a couple of weeks, which should be really, really interesting, about our life as liveaboards and the process that it took to get to where we are. So if you're in a sailing club and you want to book us for that, that'd be great. We also, of course, have OpenCPN on there. So we've got another backup for charts and what have you if we ever need to use it. Here are a selection of cruising guides and pilot books and everything else. We've got World Cruising Routes here, our Reed's Almanac, and various pilot books. I've actually got loads of these, but I tend to keep in here the ones that we're actually going to be using, you know, imminently. So I've got things like, you know, Atlantic France, and what have you, and the passages that we've just done, Irish Sea Pilot, Lundy Irish Sea Pilot, and what have you. So they're really interesting books, and they get kind of rotated depending on where we are. Under the chart table here, of course, is our full-size chart drawer, which does contain a whole load of charts and a load of other stuff as well, which I'm not going to show you because it's a bit embarrassing. It's just full of sunglasses, and it's sunglasses and splicing kits and head torches and super glue and, you know, bits of rigging and another safety knife, and, you know, so it's not about embarrassing, it's just embarrassing because it's a mess. Over here on my right hand side, on the starboard side of the boat, I've got my switch panel and some lighting. So I've got two spot lamps here, one red and one white. I've got a clock. We've got a barometer, which works great. In fact, that needs just putting there. This bank of switches here is my bilge pumps. So in each bilge we have two pumps. So this is saloon lower and saloon upper. This is engine room lower and engine room upper. And the reason for that is we've got a small bilge pump at the bottom, relatively small, which is just to pick up condensation and dribbles, and there's no alarm on that one, so if it goes off it just means that some water has dribbled down there from condensation and what have you. And then above that, some 8 inches above, we've got a much higher capacity bilge pump with an automatic float switch with a very loud alarm and a strobe lamp which goes off in this back corner, and it's about 120 decibels and a very bright red light. And if that goes off, it means that water is coming in so fast that the bottom bilge pump can't cope. So it means we've got a leak somewhere. It could be just a blown through hull, or it could be something more serious. It could be a split pipe, or, you know, the first thing to do if that happens is don't panic. And the next thing to do is it salt water or is it fresh water? And then let's find out where. But that's a different story. So they're my bilge pump switches, and below that I've got my 12-volt system. So here is all my instruments, nav lights, VHF, and the deck lights. The SSB, because it's quite high powered, doesn't come through the switch panel. It's independently connected directly via a fuse, of course, because I don't want to take it through this breaker. In the centre panel we've got the anchor light, tricolour, the steaming light, and the switch for the autopilot brain. And then over here we've got cabin lights. So this is your domestic side. Cabin lights, the heating system, the pumps for the pressurised water system, and the refrigeration system. So that's where it's very, very simple. There's only 12 switches for the entire boat really, and I can turn off the whole 12-volt system with this switch here in the corner. That takes the whole 12 volt system off and back on again. So it works really, really great, and it's a good safety feature. And wiring wise, I'll just show you. This opens up. I'm still working on this wiring, but have a look. This is what I've done. I'm quite pleased. It's fairly neat. This is my current wiring situation for the 12 volt side. So you've got 3 sets of 4, bank 1, bank 2 and bank 3. These are my bilge pump switches. All of these banks come to this bar here, which stops them being tugged and pulled. And all of these appliances, all of these 12 volt things come through this battery isolator, which means that this will cut off power to these things if the battery bank gets too low. And the reason for that is the bilge pumps and the emergency equipment doesn't go through this. So if the batteries get to a certain threshold, it will shut off everything and give us only emergency stuff, some emergency lighting and the emergency bilge pumps and the very critical things that we need to operate the boat. So the next area that you need to see is the crawl through and the engine room. Now, we call this area the crawl through. It's not actually a crawl through, it's a stoop through. I'm 5'9" and I can walk through here, you know, just stooping over. If you were much bigger, you might have to get on your knees, I guess. So for somebody not too large, it's a stoop through, not a crawl through. And what I've got is on my right hand side, I've got the electrical power centre of the boat, and on the left hand side in the centre midships, I've got the mechanical power centre of the boat. Okay, so the engine, first of all, the engine is a Yanmar 4JHT. I've got a couple of things disconnected at the moment because, as usual, I'm changing the layout of a few things, but she's a fantastic engine, runs like an absolute peach. And at the end of last year, Boat Folk very kindly changed all of our engine mounts for brand spanking new ones and realigned all of our prop shaft and got that working perfectly. So she's got brand new filters, brand new pipe work, brand new belts, brand new filtration, water filtration system, brand new engine mounts. She's had all of the oil change. She's got new gearbox oil, and really is in tip-top condition. And of course, before we head off in the spring, I'll give her another once over and make sure that everything is tickety-boo, because we'll be doing sea trials before we leave anyway. Now, back here in the what we call the crawl through, or the stoop through, as I've said, we've got this worktop here where I've got my toolbox with a few more tools in, and behind these sliding perspex panels I've got my solar panel charge controllers. We've got the non-switched 12 volt stuff, which, as I say, is the emergency stuff, things like bilge pumps and emergency lighting. We've got underneath here things like the autopilot brain, the AIS transponder, the VHF splitter, the radio for the SSB, and they're all under here, and under that side is all of our batteries. Now we've got 6 Acceleron 12 volt lithium ferrous LiFePO4 batteries in there, under there, and on top of that we've got a whole bunch of Bluetti batteries. I'll show you them now as well. Now, I'm all about redundancy on this boat, so our entire boat runs off the 6 Acceleron lithium LiFePO4 batteries, which are underneath this cabinet here, which run the whole boat. But alongside that, we've got 2 fairly substantial power banks. This is the Bluetti AC500, which is it's a 5,000 watt inverter charger, which will peak at 10,000 watts, but it gives us 5 kilowatts continuous. And the battery that goes with it, so this is the inverter charger, this is the battery, and that's 3,072 watt hours. And then secondary to that, we've got this one, which is a slightly smaller Bluetti AC180T, which is 1,433.6 watt hours, and it's an 1,800 watt inverter. It'll actually peak at 2.5 kilowatts if you wanted to, and they both obviously independently could run the entire boat. So if for whatever reason our entire electrical system got knocked out, we could switch over fairly quickly and run the whole boat off that, or the whole boat at a pinch off that. Now that means that we've got somewhere linked all together, because obviously they're pure sine wave inverters and we can get them all to talk to each other. I haven't done yet, but I will do. But we've got somewhere in the region of 12.5 kilowatts of power on board the boat. And I think you'll agree that's enough. Charging wise, we can charge from the engine via a DC-DC 1212, although I've yet to get that. We've still got problems with that charging system. Obviously it charges from shore power and we charge from solar. Complete on the boat, we've got two 300-watt solar panels on our cabin roof. We've got a fold-out 350-watt solar panel from Bluetti, and we've got two 115-watt solar panels from SunPower. So that's somewhere in the region of 1175, I think, 1175 watts, which isn't quite enough. We want to put some more, but it's very difficult to find places to put solar on a monohull unless you want to cover the entire deck in solar panels, which we don't. Now, on that note, the exterior tour for the boat will not be in this video. It will be in a separate video, so keep watching because we're going to do that in a few weeks' time. In the meantime, I'm going to hand back to Melissa to carry on the tour that direction.
The inshore waters forecast 12 miles offshore, issued by the Met Office at 1100 UTC.
So moving on from the crawl through, I'm going to take you into the aft cabin where Jack is going to give you a tour of his bedroom. This is the very aft end of the boat. Beyond this there is a locker, but this is the last room of the boat, and I have to say it's probably, well, it definitely is the best room. Jack has got the coolest cabin on the boat. One thing I'll show you in here, which is mine, well, everyone's, but I tend to use it most. So down here on the side of Jack's desk is it's got some sawdust in because it's still a project boat. Currently not plumbed in, so I'm using the Marina laundrettes, which are very good, but it will be plumbed back in the next week or two. Is my little 3-kilo washing machine. It's a proper marine washing machine that I managed to bag off Facebook Marketplace for £20, and it's great. It washes really well, and it spins the washing, and then I can hang it out on a nice day. And then throughout the boat we've got two of these little oil-filled radiators. They just keep the temperature ticking over. But our main heating system, which I showed you in the galley, also comes out into the aft cabin under Jack's desk. So it comes out just here, so it heats his feet up and heats the whole bedroom up nicely. He can also, if it gets too hot in here, this is one that he can turn off. Jack's going to give you a tour of his room, so I'm going to hand you over now.
Welcome to my cabin. On the port side, we've got my bed, which is a large single. And then up here we've got my shelving area, and then behind us is just a triangle section with storage here, and then space for the steering system here, and then more deep storage back there. And then we've got the desk here, and this is just a pencil holder area, and Dad did this really nice carving for me, and I can sit at my desk, just sitting at the end of my bed, like so, if you needed a demonstration. And then underneath my desk I've got a space for my feet. I've got storage here, there and there. I've got some really nice carvings along here that Dad made. It's inspired by Norse mythology. Then I've got a little storage area up here, and I've got a really nice window to look out into the cockpit where I can talk to Dad or Mum if they're sailing and I'm in here. I've got a nice ventilation as well. On the starboard side, we've got Oliver's side, and here's his bed. He hasn't moved in yet. He's still sleeping with Mum in the Forepeak. And then we've got another porthole over here for even more ventilation. We've got the hatch here, which opens all the way, and the boards come out. And we don't have a ladder currently due to safety reasons, so Ollie can't get out, but I can still easily climb out. And then we've got a hanging locker here, that's currently got tools in. And then we've got 2 drawers here. This is all Oliver's side, but currently I'm using it for storage until he moves in. Okay, there's more storage under both the bunks. This has got all my clothes in, which are all in storage bags. Currently you can't look out the windows because my kayak is there, and that'll be moved shortly. And then we've got the mast there, and yeah, just some ongoing projects that are going to be fitted onto the boat that are currently outside. I've still got a bit of growing room here, and hopefully I'm like a toy cart where I grow to the tank, to my size tank. And if not, the ceiling's padded anyway. Got the compression post here for the mizzen mast that goes down into the depths. Down here, I've got all my Lego and painting stuff in this storage. And then I've got my guitar here, which I really do need to learn how to play. I've got plenty of light in my cabin, but I'd like another strip light like this to go underneath my bookshelf to add some more ambiance. All in all, I think I've got the best boat cabin going. Tell me what you think in the comments.
So there you go, that's the show round of the interior of Ocean Melody. Now the outside tour, which is going to come up in a few weeks, we're in the process of filming at the moment. All the links for the stuff that you saw on the screen, the Bluetti stuff and Orca and the heating system and all of that, they're in the description below, so you can click on those to go to those companies if you're interested in them. One thing that we should say, Boat Folk, Portland, where we're staying here over winter, just fantastic. It was such a good decision to stay here for the winter, so thank you very much for Boat Folk for having us. Now, if you want to support the channel, you can become a patron, which is great. The link's on the screen and on the description. But either way, even if you don't want to become a patron, please head over and subscribe. We're just over 70,000 subscribers. We'd love to get to 100,000 subscribers. So drop a subscribe, drop us a like, drop us a comment, and we'll see you all next time. Take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed the tour.
Lyme Regis to Land's End, including the Isles of Scilly. 24-hour forecast. Cyclonic 2 to 4, occasionally 5 at first in the west, becoming southerly or southwesterly 4 or 5 later. Slight or moderate in the east, moderate or rough in the west. Rain at times, mainly in the west, becoming mainly fair later. Good, occasionally moderate. Outlook for the following 24 hours. Southerly or southwesterly 4 or 5, occasionally 6 in the west, slight or moderate in the east,